Welcome to the George and Victoria podcast. I'm George, and with me today is the lovely Victoria. We're so excited to kick off our series on the book of Ruth. Today, we're diving into chapter 1, which we're calling The Road of Loss and Loyalty. What a title, Victoria. It feels like it perfectly encapsulates the essence of this powerful story.
It really does, George. The theme here is faithfulness, especially during times of loss. And let's face it, who hasn't experienced loss in some form? It can bring out a profound loyalty in relationships and communities, which is so beautifully illustrated in Ruth's journey.
Absolutely. The story opens with a famine in Bethlehem, which is ironic because Bethlehem literally means the house of bread. A family, feeling desperate for survival, decides to relocate to Moab. Now, this raises some interesting questions around their choice. Some argue they stepped out of what we would call God's will, while others view this as just a practical decision. What do you think, Victoria?
Yes, it's a fascinating dilemma. The text doesn't actually cast judgment on their decision to leave Israel. It just states that they went. This helps highlight something profound, George. Sometimes we look back on our lives and want to assign blame or moral judgments to our choices. But in reality, we can find ways that God redeems even our most ordinary, imperfect decisions.
And that's where the story takes a heavier turn. We see that Elimelech, the father, dies, followed by the deaths of his 2 sons. This leaves Naomi alone with her daughters-in-law, Ruth and Orpah. It's heartbreaking, and some traditions even suggest that the Moabite gods caused their deaths.
Right? But the Bible doesn't attribute any blame to the Moabite gods. Instead, what we see is a focus on Naomi's grief and the sovereignty of God. This raises an important question. How do we cope with grief? And more importantly, how can we discern where God is in our pain?
It's such a delicate balance. Naomi hears that God has provided food in Bethlehem again and decides to return. She urges her daughters-in-law to return to their families. Orpah does, but Ruth clings to Naomi. At this point, Ruth's loyalty becomes a powerful theme. She says, "Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God." This isn't just about family loyalty. It's a declaration of faith.
Exactly. Ruth embodies a deep-seated loyalty that transcends the circumstances. She chooses Naomi and Naomi's God, step into her brokenness. It's amazing to see how real faith can manifest in such acts of loyalty. It reminds me of how often we might feel the need to walk away when things get tough, but Ruth does the opposite.
And when they arrive back in Bethlehem, we find Naomi in a bitter state. She even asks to be called Mara, which means bitter in Hebrew. It's a stark reminder that pain can cloud our perceptions. She feels like God has dealt harshly with her. But here's the interesting twist. She's unaware that God is quietly working behind the scenes to plant the seed of redemption in her story.
It is a powerful point. They return at the beginning of the barley harvest. This timing is symbolic. Though Naomi feels completely empty, God is preparing provision and hope for her. It shows us that even when life feels barren, there's potential for abundance.
So what do we take away from this first chapter? The lesson here is that true loyalty shines brightest in dark times. Ruth exemplifies this loyalty, standing by Naomi's side. And it's a beautiful reminder that although we may experience deep losses, God often begins his redemption stories in our places of pain.
And let's not forget the overarching truth. Even when we feel lost, God is at work. It might not be obvious at first, but those moments of desolation can be fertile ground for something great to emerge. Naomi's bitterness could easily overshadow the hope beginning to bloom with the harvest.
Yes, Victoria. So if we were to wrap up our thoughts today, we'd say this. Life is full of seasons of loss, but it's in those seasons that we often see the truest forms of loyalty. Just like Ruth and Naomi, we should remain steadfast, trusting that beyond our struggles, God is planting seeds of redemption in our lives.
That's beautifully put. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of Ruth 1. We hope you feel encouraged to embrace loyalty in the dark moments and to look for God at work in your own stories, no matter how painful they might seem right now.
Join us next week as we delve deeper into Ruth's journey and uncover more lessons. Until then, take care and keep the faith.